Welcome back to Heart Path Podcast. I'm your host, Terra Kenzie Longacre, author, transformational and spiritual embodiment coach, and retreat leader. In each episode, we'll explore topics around spirituality, empowerment, divine embodiment, resiliency of the human spirit, and heart-based business and beyond. In this episode, we are talking to Nicole Oshia Pemberton. Nicole is the creatrix of the goddess moves. She is a master alchemical dance ceremonialist, certified Akashic records reader, temple body artist, mentor, priestess. She is a womb priestess, multidimensional goddess channel, certified crystal and Reiki practitioner, as well as African shamanic apprentice. Nicole is a speaker, certified trauma-informed facilitator, embodiment coach, and dance artist. Welcome. So today on Heart Path Podcast, we have a special guest, Nicole Oshia. She is a multi-dimensional goddess, and there's so many ways that we could describe who you are and what you do. However, I would love to share that I've had the privilege of connecting with Nicole in many different ways, and she is also a graduate of Akashic initiation. Yes. So very multifaceted. She works with more of like alchemical dance, using your body as an expression and being in that in ceremony, working with Akashic records, working with energy healing. Crystal, Nicole, welcome. I feel like I will not do justice to you and your magic and your gifts. So can you please share with the folks who you are and what are some of these beautiful roles that you have as a guide and a healer and a teacher and beyond?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here, and welcome to all those that are listening or watching this conversation. And yeah, it's really it's really interesting to encapsulate everything, but at the same time, um, the core of my offerings and the core of what I do is to offer a sacred space, a healing sanctuary for people to do their soul work, whether it's clearing, whether it's womb clearing, whether it's going channeling and receiving the messages from the Akashic records, from the ancestral helping spirits, whether it's doing ancestral healing work, or just, really helping to support soul purpose and to activate healing energy. Well, I don't do it. The clients do that for themselves, but to hold the space so one can soften and open to then receive what they need to receive. And so I hold a space through embodiment, through the drum, through heartful conversations or one-on-one healing, energy activation. I hold the space for that, for one's remembrance of who they are, one's remembrance or activation of their own healing power, or their own activation to really reclaiming their own empowerment, so they can be the spiritual warrior in every facet. They can be the priestess, they can be the goddess, they can whoever be that person that they're designed to be, and live in that embodiment that they are designed to live. I was writing this morning, and one of the things that came through is that having these conversations is a way of reclaiming ourselves, reclaiming our healing. Whether it's to heal or to activate or just to like remember, it's medicine. And when we have that own that medicine, when we truly own that medicine for ourselves, we become, uh, then there's less. You become so solid and so present and so aligned with yourself that there's no one that can, nobody can mess with that. Nobody can try to control you, because you already know you have your value. You own all parts of yourself. um, and this is what we're privileged to be able to do and to hold, for ourselves and for the people that come into our spaces.
And I love so much of what you just shared, and the messaging is really being that support that holds the space, but it ultimately is the people finding that within themselves and remembering that, and it's not necessarily to outsource it from from your guide, but at the same time to know that you've got that support on the journey. And sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this and experienced this, and perhaps, people that are listening or watching, sometimes there could be those situations where you can lose sight of that, or you forget that, and you're seeking all of the answers from this other person, but then it's almost where you become the mirror,
Mhm.
right? And then you can find it within yourself.
Mhm.
So I didn't even mention anything womb in your intro for us joining together, because that's a huge piece of your story in terms of coming into a deeper healing for yourself. But even what I remember from other conversations was a catalyst for you in supporting others. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. This question was posed to me the other day, and it really got me thinking of, you know, the the pathway um, of womb work and of womb wisdom and womb clearing, and really giving space to the center of our body. And I, in reflection, if we look at our society and our paradigm, in a general sense, um, us as girls or femme-bodied humans,
Mhm.
um, unless we grew up in a household or a community that approached the body and the feminine processes, the rites of passage of life,
Mhm.
um, unless there was a real ingrained connection with that, growing up, we're very much brought up to separate the spiritual, or separate um, the divine, the sacredness
Right.
of our bodies and of the pathways that we go through, through life. We're very much separated from that. It's very um, anatomical and scientific, and uh, uh, in medical terms, just it's cold. And when I say in medical terms it's cold, I mean that it's like, there's your uterus, there's your fallopian tubes,
Yeah.
right? Your reproductive system, right? Your menstruation, right? It's just black and
Logical base.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a space for that, which is great. The reason why I say this is because how I got into recognizing, even saying womb, or recognizing the womb work, and taking a deeper look at unpacking my relationship with my menstrual cycle, which I will reference as the moon cycle. um, with my moon cycle, that relationship I had with my with my belly, like even just like the belly button, and just holding that space and calling it a stomach, instead of anatomically your stomach is higher than where we think our belly is. That's neither here nor there. But you know, just even thinking about that relationship, and the rituals and the mindset that goes with that, to bring it into a space of sacredness. When girls first start to bleed, it's like that's a sacred initiation. And a lot of us did not move through that rites of passage in a really special, and like, wow, okay, you're becoming a woman now. This is what, and having those honest conversations about what goes on, what is happening, right? Some of us did, and many of us did not have that ceremony, that ritual. And I did not really truly understand all of this until I went through my initiation, and I started going into the goddess arts. I started going into the priestess arts, where all of this was revealed, you know. Um, and that's where I really started to um, unpack this for myself. I was looking at healing my womb from fibroids, and the first of all, I was my first couple of gynecologists and doctor appointments weren't so great. I was treated horribly, as not really as a human. It just it was it when you go and ask for help, and you're confused and you want to figure things out, you know, you hope for that same loving care. Now, those couple people that I went to at first, they don't represent the whole medical community. I later found some beautiful and wonderful doctors and gynecologists that really did see me. But unfortunately, there were a couple that really didn't see me, right? And so those experiences really left me just questioning, like what can I do? And this isn't like this is just this can't be all the alternatives that I have, And so going from a space like that, I mean, even a year ago, I had to go in for some follow-ups, and I remember asking questions, and the doctor got fed up with me, and I still had a question, and he walked out on me.
Wow.
Like, he walked out of the office. It's like, oh, well, and he's like, I'm sorry, I have other clients to see. I must go. And I was like, did that just happen?
I'm here.
And so I- when I started going into womb work, I really had to resource and go outside of I guess, the conventional, and when I started looking to see where I could find support, where I could what could I do. First, it was eating and exercising and doing all the physical things, and then when I started going to doing some um, uh, intuitive, like, spiritual work, this is where this knowledge started to come through. And I was like, wow. And I just went down the rabbit hole. I was just like, tell me more. And really, that's how the integration of spirit, of spirituality, of the goddess arts, of movement, um, indigenous practice. I'm currently a shaman apprentice right now, you know, with the bridging the Akashic. The Akashic, it just blew my mind in such deep and profound ways. You know, this is how I started to really get this information and to share it.
And from what you're sharing too, it's like part of that experience almost leaves you feeling powerless. It's like what like I'm coming to you for support, but it's not, yeah, it's not necessarily viewed in the way that you might want or need in those moments. And then this part of the journey allows you to have more clarity and to feel like you've got some skin in the game, so to speak. It's like, okay, like I'm not helpless. There is support. I can tap into these other fields to work with the emotional components of it as well, or what is the underlying soul circumstances. And that's what you do with people that you work with now too.
Mm-hmm.
So could we talk about dance a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
How did that come into your world? Because you've done training. So what was that for you? Has it always been a passion and a love for you? How do you work with it now with the people?
Um, mm. Dan, dan, Dance is has been a cultural thing, and then it became very multi-layered for me. My background is from the Caribbean, and as the Caribbean culture is very much. Uh, there is a vibrancy in the culture and music and dance and community and really enjoying the sweetness of life, um, amongst all the other things, um, is really at the heart of the Caribbean culture. So, um, as far as I can remember, I remember my dad playing his records, loud, either in the house, or he had this sweet stereo system and with his records,
Speakers.
and yeah, like the big, like the like bookshelf speakers, and his records, and we would go in the basement and play the music and dance and make up our own dances, as kids, that's what we did. And festivals and different things, like music and dance was always around. It really wasn't until, and my parents also took my sister and I to shows, like, um go to the theater or go to the festivals, and I would always flock to the stage
Oh.
when there was dancing, right? So um it was embedded in our culture. And I really got inspired when I saw dance on in the theater, and my parents, they recorded on VHS a PBS program called Black Dance in America, and I watched that the next day or 2 days later or whatnot, and I just remember just being really, like, it drew me in. And I have that videotape now because I must have watched it like how many times. And my mom says, you I don't know how many times you've watched this thing, but you should have this." I'm like, okay. And I mean, I even still look up YouTube videos of that show, but it really was inspirational for me. Like, it just connected me to something bigger than what I knew of. I just knew I loved dance and I wanted to do more of it. Um, and and it started from there, really. And then when I finished school, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Um, and so it took some convincing. But I went to college for dance, and then after that, I was like, okay, let's. how do I need to make a living out of this and be a performer, and how do I do that? And so I moved to Toronto and I started my professional career from there. Um, and it was really interesting because I see it now. I didn't see it then. My dance career always interwoven the spiritual.
Mm.
I just didn't see it because I was always curious about where things come from, where certain aspects of Black dance came from, where the certain aspects of just all dance, where did it come from? And it always led me back to indigenous uh, tribes or practices or ceremonies and rituals, um, beyond the church, in church and beyond the church. And um, even do even with the company that I danced with, we did a lot of spiritual dances, especially in the Orisha spirituality, which is a spirituality from that has its roots in Nigeria.
Mm.
And I didn't know, right? I was just drawn to it. I was drawn to Yamanja. I was drawn to Oya. I was drawn to Shango. I was drawn to the drums. I could, be in the class and just be 3 hours and sweat, and just like, yes, and there was some, and even when I went to Trinidad and did Trinidad and Tobago and did a dance residency there and got to and see be in the ceremonies, not like, I didn't get, what they call possessed, but like a deity would come through, and that person would they would transform. And to see that in real time, I was like, golly. At first I was like, okay, I understand why people, if they weren't open and did not understand what was going on, would be scared.
Right.
I understand it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is a particular spirituality that has X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it at the time, but those things were coming through.
Yeah.
And then later on, to when I really got serious about, the goddess and all of these things were like, oh yeah, it was always there.
Mm.
And even about dancing, I found a quote recently from a shaman and from the Zulu Zangoma tribe from South Africa. His name is Credo Mutwa. He's very well known in South Africa. He's now transitioned, but
Mm.
he said something that I was like, oh my gosh. He says, dance in order to communicate with your body, to communicate with your muscles, to communicate with your mind. When a person dances, he or she speaks to every vein and artery, every joint, and every length of muscle within his or her body. Above all, you receive power from the earth, or he says MAGA. Now, I want to preface that. We're not talking about political stuff right now. He's talking about like a bigger power, like an energetic power, like from the mother, right? Which flows from the deep underground to your feet, into your feet, and up your spine, and through the top of your head. That is the power of the Sangoma, the person of the drum, right?
Mm.
And I was just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you know, when we move, when we're in those states of just higher consciousness and we express it through the body or access it through the body, things come through. The body opens up and you receive things that you're just like, holy wow. And it really, I looked at dance as, a theatrical, an artistic expression, and rightfully so. I looked at it through that lens at first. And, that carried me through my part of my career. But later on and present, it is that it's completely shifted as one of the highest forms of spiritual practice.
Mm. When you were reading what that shaman had said, you can feel the words vibrating in your body. Like you can feel this expansion even from those words. So to incorporate moving the body. Well, and when you do different festivals and conferences, are you bringing forward a lot of the alchemical dance experience? I was so happy to know that you were doing the Glastonbury Goddess Festival. I'm like,
Mhm,
yes.
mhm,
Ah!
mhm,
And
mhm.
you've done more beyond that. But is that where you incorporate bringing in that movement and the spirituality?
Oh yeah, it's definitely incorporated. Yeah, even doing it in Glastonbury was just a whole other, like, a whole other up leveling, and I'm really uh, happy and privileged to go back this year,
Oh,
and be invited back and to do more work around Sacred Union, which is the themes festival, which is the festival's theme.
yeah.
And yeah, like, the sacredness, the connection to, all earth elements, the connection to our wombs and our bodies, to the divine, to our multi-dimensional spirit team, all of that is weaved in my signature alchemical dance journey. um yeah, and so excuse me, it's holding the space to allow the body, the consciousness, your energetic channels, to open so that you can receive what you need to receive,
Mhm.
right? And the process is done in many different variations. But what's really beautiful is that everybody, it's not just me holding the space. Everybody a part of it is in their own way, holding the space for the people that are there, and it becomes this beautiful healing tapestry. And
Mm.
by the end, it's this, like, you look at everyone and you're like, wow, you're lighter, you went through something, and that's why I say it's alchemical, because there is a state of transformation when a person starts a ritual, or a ceremony. You're in one state, right? And then at the end, um, you're somewhere else. You're in another state. You're elevated. You've released something. Something has been transmuted. It could be
Mm.
one tiny thing, or it could be something that was just like, holy, whoa, what I'm what it oh my gosh, I just feel like, like something really, like, huge happened, right? Or it could be just like, mm, yeah, and whatever that process is beautiful in itself. And that's the alchemy, right?
Mm.
That's the turning the um was it the iron into gold,
Yeah.
you know it's in that process. Any ceremonial, any ritual process, rites of passage, whatever it is that
Mm.
we go through, we will walk in one way, and we will move through, and we will complete that process, and we are different. We still
Mm.
are ourselves, yes,
Yeah.
but something has shifted.
Well, and even let's say if you're doing these alchemical dance movements, it could even be something where somebody started off feeling shy and self-conscious, and then they're full-blown goddess.
Mhm.
Just like, and the walls come down, and you get to be part of that, and you get to witness that. And even for the person that's gone through that, they might they might have surprised themselves or not thought that
Mhm.
was possible either. So I think that's beautiful, because the movement, I love to dance as well. Like, it's just so freeing. And the movement, you don't need anything but your body. You don't need to, like, the mind, you don't want the mind there. You just want that completely free, uninhibited space within the body.
Mhm.
So so what I'm like, which pathway do we go? Because there's a couple to go down,
Mhm.
because you do hold the space and you work with people in many different ways. So where are you finding yourself being most called to be of service and support people? Because we can have things that we like and enjoy, but there might be these specific modalities or experiences that speak louder or that pull us louder.
Mm. Um, I love it when all things are integrated,
Yes.
and in an integrative experience. So um, whether it's through a festival experience or through a retreat, or an online group together. I always say, currently, right now, Wednesdays are my favorite days,
Oh,
because that's when my uh, liberated wound group, we gather for our weekly calls, and just wanting to gather with women, or with the people, the soul humans that I support and hold space for. um, it's just really beautiful. Um, I I so enjoy it every single time where we get to share conversation and do a ritual process and hear what came through, what was alchemized, what was transformed, what was like, oh my gosh, what was a breakthrough, what was a moment where we all held up our hands and said, I see you, and what I see in you is, and to support someone in their remembrance, and even when a person goes through a movement ritual, and all of a sudden just things come through. I'm very I love that experience, and in holding space for people. I work with women, but it's in those spaces. So whether it's in person or online, of course, in person is always sweeter, because
you
we're
can
right
tell.
there. Exactly. We're right there, in the space. But even we can create that circle, we can create that feeling online, and it's just as juicy. It will never be as juicy as the in person, but it can be just as juicy, because when the space is set up, um, um, I don't want to say properly, but when it is set up to that is just it's just right, so
Mhm.
that people can open and feel comfortable, and allow themselves to um, unravel and unfurl, and be ready to receive,
Mhm.
even if it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but here I am.
Yeah.
You know that it's pure magic to be on the witnessing end, to be the space holder, to be the ceremonialist. Um, it's pure magic, and I love holding spaces like that.
Well, and when you create, I don't, I was going to say this sense of community, but it's more than that. It's actually creating the community beyond a sense, because that's what it is. You might find, because everybody is there, they might have different intentions, but everybody's joining and committing to themselves and their process
Mhm.
in a group. I feel like having spaces like that allows people to feel like they're not alone, to like to be seen. Maybe you're creating spaces where someone might not have felt like they've ever really been seen for who they are, but then they can come to your womb liberation and they found a home, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that totally is, that remembrance, and but also it's 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 receiving the experience, but also
Mm.
that personal transformation for themselves. Like any of these spaces, you are going to be stretched one way or another. An individual is going to be stretched, either a little or a lot, or be, and at some point be in a space that is a little uncomfortable, and you're like, or it's like it's really like, oh my gosh, just to say 3 words is like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling a lot of, stuff come up, and being able to have the space to allow that to come through, even even I have a process, a ritual where, uh, um, a lot of times in my rituals, you say things out loud.
Yeah.
We integrate the voice, and even in a mirror practice that I give to people is to see themselves in the mirror, and um, either and say something that they like, what they see in the mirror, or just to be like, say your name and I love you, or
Mm.
for somebody, to be in a dyad or in a group, and to be witnessed, or to say you are loved unconditionally. That statement alone can be really challenging,
Yeah.
because one might not know what that actually feels like,
Yeah.
right? Because if we say, okay, you are loved unconditionally, um, there's a few different reactions that you're going to get from that. And the most common one is that, yeah, but, but here's the thing, I got to do this, or I need to be this, or I have to be in this type of space, or, well, I only feel this when, and, I don't know, like
Yeah.
there's an objection to, you don't have to do, like, if I say to you, you are loved unconditionally, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to be anything. There is absolutely zero expectations or judgments. You, as Terra Kenzie, as the heart path priestess, as the Akashic beauty, master teacher, as the human, you are loved
Mm.
unconditionally,
Mm.
right? For one to really have that seep in, that's
Mm.
that's 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 that could be the starting point right there.
Right. It could be that this rewiring of all the programs and all the stories that might have been, I'm seeing it's like somebody like wrapped in all of these cords and ties, and it's just to hear that, because you, thank you for saying that. You saying that, I'm like, and like a little teary, because it's such a gift to receive that, period, without anything connected to it other than love.
Mhm,
And we don't always have that in our world, and to create spaces and opportunities for people to be part of that, it is life changing. We're going to throw it out there. It's life changing, and will and can create transformation.
mhm. It's that receiving.
Hmm.
It's um it's receiving that, and especially receiving that for, you know, for ourselves to say it to ourselves, to your heart, to your soul, to your womb, to your body, for you to really receive it and hear it and allow it to really seep in. And then for another person to hold the mirror up to you and for you to receive that from another. You know, it's something.
I have a question because I'm always so fascinated by folks that are in the field that we are in and working with people in that capacity. So for you, from being in the professional dance world, which there's a lot, I have come across many people that have professional dancing backgrounds and they're in the healing art. So there's something there. However,
Mhm.
coming from that background, did you ever imagine that you would be here now doing what you're doing? Okay. See?
No, no, you know, it was. I would say the spiritual connections have always been a curiosity. Um, like, you know, as a kid looking at astrology, or um, I always had a fascination with whenever I would doodle or draw, it would be stars. I would always draw stars, you know, just like the. I would always draw stars. I would draw the sun. I would draw trees. I would draw water, and hearts.
Yeah.
You know, always just like if just drawing hearts and sun and stuff. Like not, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just drawing. I'm having fun, right? But I would get lost in that, and you know, and I grew up in the Anglican faith. My parents, we would go to my family, we would go to church. We go to the Anglican church. That was my extension of spirituality for, you know, for a good portion of my growing up, until probably high school. Like we like still went, but where I started asking questions and looking and reading books and just broadening my sense of spirituality. And but those were my connections then. It was, you know, the dance, which I didn't know again, but there was that, you know. And you know, I was always just drawn to being out in nature, in water, the beach, or in trees. I'd always just like get, and no clue why. I just was always drawn to that, you know. So that was my connection to spirituality. And yeah, coming into this space of you know, being a spiritual coach or a mentor or an embodiment, all the whatever the titles are, th- I never this was not part of the plan, you know, like it unfolding in these gifts and these, like, being able to, you know, to connect to spirit in a way, to channel in stuff, to connect to the nature and practices and all of these things. And um no, and leading it, no. I never wanted to be. I was at, even as a dancer, I never wanted to lead. I
Mm.
never wanted to teach classes. I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be the dancer.
Yeah.
Company, tell me what to do. Give me this movement. Oh, I get to work with this artist. Yes, they create such beautiful. Yes, mold me, sculpt me. Yes, you know, that was what that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to perform and be on stages and travel the world and eventually have a family and do all the things. You know, like being in the arts, that was it. I think um when my mom transitioned, things started to really shift, and I started to look at things differently. And I so badly wanted to know and feel that that connection with my mom was not severed.
Hmm.
And so I would look for any hints or anything that would be like, okay, she's still here. She's not gone.
Yeah.
And that started to open me up to, it was like, I don't know, it was a weird way of turning on a switch, and 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 be start things started to open up within me that I didn't even know that was there. you know and I think there were a lot of different things that happened, but I remember very clearly when um we were at the cemetery. It was our last day and we were about to go home. My All of us, my dad, my sister, myself, we were about to come back to Canada. And we were at the cemetery. We're all quiet and we're just feeling our feelings. And we're about to go to visit a cousin before we get our stuff and go to the airport. And we get in the car. It's cloudy. It's it's warm, but it's cloudy. The sun's not out. And we drive to our cousins. Nobody's saying nothing. We got the radio on,
Oh.
and we're all in our heads. And then we go see our cousin. We talk for a little bit, and then we leave. As soon as we leave, there was an opening in the clouds, and the sun shone directly on my side of the car. I was on the was at the this is my right. I was on the right hand side of the car. The sun came through my window and followed me for a good chunk of the way. Earth, Wind, and Fire comes on with this sing a song. The first few lyrics of the song, when you feel down in and out, sing a song, it'll make you dance. Then it goes on. And I was like, and I felt mommy was directly talking to me, saying, don't worry, I'm okay.
Hmm.
Right? Don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Try not to be sad. And immediately I was just like, I'm turning to my sister, I'm like, do you hear the song? She's like, no, why? I said, I think mommy's talking to us right now. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know, just I'm just listening to the song, and it just, yeah. She's like, okay. um, yeah, and it was just like, huh, okay. Things started to open up and just, I don't know,
Yeah.
unlock from there, and especially going through my womb journey, and figuring out, okay, what do I do with this information and with dance, and I, through going through mentorship um, with one of my mentors, Sophia Tom, and her Priestess Mystery School, Temple Body Arts, I then started to got the motivation and the courage
Yeah.
to birth the Goddess Moves,
Mm.
um, and say, okay, I'm going to do something with this. And I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be, but I just felt like even after I had my physical womb clearing. I had to have surgery for my fibroids. Even through that process, it felt like I could not hold any. My body was saying any creative or any leadership or anything that these dreams or these things that you want to do, you have to put them out. You can't hold them in your body anymore.
Oh.
And I was like, And it became painful to do so, to hold things in my body that was meant to go out to the world.
Mm.
And this is a beautiful spiritual, like, I mean, it's a spiritual teaching that we all have, you know, and we can feel it in our own bodies when we have an idea or when we have something, you know, that energy is stagnant if it stays in the body. It is not meant to be held within the body. It's meant to go out. And really, I feel it was spirit, it was my lineage, it was whoever that was really saying, okay, you need to do this. And I was like kicking and screaming and going, "Mm."
Don't make
I was
me.
like, who's gonna listen to me? Like, you know, coming from a dance background, I don't have years of spiritual experience and whatnot. And they said, yes, you do. And I was like, shit. You know, like it was like reluctant. You know, it was that reluctant feeling of, but then there was that, yeah, but who else is going to do it?
Mm-mm. Ah, can I just say I read something this morning, and this is to like go with the who else is going to do it. It, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was your blessings have your name on them,
Mm,
and sometimes they'll come in ways that you wouldn't anticipate, or or it's like there could be the resistance to them, but they're going to come, and you have to be ready.
mm, mhm, mhm. And I was resisting. I was like, no, I'm not ready. I need this. I need this. I need this. And this. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have what I don't, you know, I kept comparing myself to other people. I don't have this. I don't have that. I didn't study for that long. I didn't do all of that. You know, I was like, ultimately it's like, who's going to listen to me?
Right.
Who's going to listen to, like, you know, I'm not your, mm, your typical embodiment of what we see of the goddess, of what we
Mm,
see of this spiritual work. You know, this is not the face that you see, that
mm,
people see. So I very much resisted it, you know, and I had beautiful women who were saying, that's exactly
why?
why we need you.
Yeah.
So
And even on that
so I went
soul.
out and just started.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say on that soul level, like our human can say, I don't have this, I
Mm,
don't have that, I need this. But who are you as a soul? What
mm,
is that lineage? What are you perhaps even being reinstated for in this lifetime?
mm, mm.
And we might not be ready, like, the mind.
Yeah,
But if these ideas are coming through, so I just love where you're like, it felt painful to keep it in your body. If these are coming through,
yeah,
you might not think you're ready, but you're ready.
exactly. And it's just like and it's like even just saying to yourself, you know, or even receiving the question, "Are you ready?"
Mm,
And sometimes we're like, "Mm-mm, we're not ready,"
yeah.
you know. And sometimes it's like, "Yeah, we're ready." It's like, "Are you really ready?" Are you ready? Like, even
Ooh.
if it's just like to release something, are you ready to release the baggage? Are you ready to release the heavy backpack? Are you ready to release all those stories that are within your body? Are you ready to be 100% yourself? Are you ready to stop hiding? Are you ready to stop being small? Are you ready to stop holding shame and other people's expectations? Are you ready? Lisa Nichols will say in one of many times in her speech, "Are you willing?" Like, are you willing? Right? Are you willing? And I like to say, "Are you ready?" Because yes, are you ready? And if somewhere in you is like, "Mm-mm, I'm not ready," but somewhere else in you is, your soul is just like, it's like double Dutch. I'm kind of ready. I'm ready. I want to go in. I want to go in. And the universe is saying, get in. Come on. We're right here. We're right here. She ain't ready yet? Okay. We're going to keep, we're right here. When she's ready, she comes. And then they get excited. You're there and you're like, okay, she's ready. She's coming in. Yes. And then if she jumps in, all right, here we go. But then if we hold back, then it's just like, okay, man, if they can only see what we see.
Ah, yes.
Gabrielle Bernstein said that in a talk. I lost my shit right there. I was just like, golly. she said it, it's just like, if you could, like Spirit is saying, if you could only see what we see.
Right.
And I was like, oh, damn. Like, damn. If we could only see that our pathway is limitless, and it is clear, yet we put blocks in the way. And so when we say, oh, there's this block and this block, and they're like,
what block?
Interesting. Okay, we didn't put that there, but all right, tell us more. And I had to do that work for myself. I still do that work for myself. I have a little more knowledge behind it now, but those were some of the things that I had to identify for myself. It's like when we get sick, you get the flu. However, there's a process, there's a transformation that happens. Like we go through the mud or the muck, or it's just like, ugh, we feel like crap. And then there is this, and we just want to get better. We take all the meds that we can get. There's a bit of resistance of the healing process, because it's just like, we want to get better so badly. There is no surrender in the healing process.
Repeat. You want to get better so quickly, there's no surrender in the healing process?
Right.
Yes.
Right. Right. Like, we don't surrender to the healing process, because we're like, nobody likes to be sick. We just want to feel normal and get better. But there is a process to it that opens us up to something greater. And so even like with something as simple as getting the flu, I really had to go deep and just, and I resisted the hell out of it, until like 3-4 days later, everybody was telling me, sit down, eat, and sleep, and do nothing, and so you can get better. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, do all the things, and or not do all the things. I just wanted to get better. But when I had a moment where it's just like, okay, I'm just going to surrender. I'm actually going to sleep in. I'm not going to put my alarm on. I'm going to eat the soup, and I'm going to find something to binge on, and just allow my body to do what it needs to do. And this is the same thing that when we go to, any healing space or do the healing work, there is a point where surrender needs to happen. Yeah.
And you saying that, it's so true. It has to happen. And there's so many excuses that we could create as why it can't, or not wanting to let go of control, or whatever the stories are. But you're absolutely right. It feels like it's non-negotiable in some cases.
Yeah. And we'll do everything to say, nope. We'll do everything but to do that. Yeah. But then once it happens, it's like, okay. Okay.
Surrender.
Yeah. And then they're like, she's ready now. Now we can do some work.
So,
Yeah.
Nicole, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes, but what are ways that people could find you, or even work with you? So what does that look like? Where do they find you, and what are all the ways that they can enter into your world?
Yeah. Y'all can find me on my website, www.thegoddessmoves.space. I am on the socials, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, even on TikTok, and just find me under the Goddess Moves. What is being offered right now is one-on-one sessions with me. These are 90-minute one-on-one transformational sessions. So these are curated and crafted for any individual that desires to have space held for them and to do their soul work. And so people can choose from womb clearing, from energy activation, and um, ancestral healing, or shamanic work. And so those are the one-on-one sessions. And those are held in a package. And the online group offering right now is the Liberated Womb, which will be an abbreviated version of that will be offered in late spring. Yeah, late spring, which will be a 9-week space. And then, and for that, we are touching on the core energetic principles of the energetics of the womb space. And we're integrating them with the elements of, with the goddess arts, with the shamanic core shamanism, and it's steeped in rituals. It really is there to help support the deepening the connection to the womb, and to help to heal that relationship with the self and the body. And then from there, I'll actually be launching the Temple of Oshia Mystery School later on this year. And so that will be a priestess initiation and facilitator mentorship and training for those who desire to go deeper into this work and to share this work with their communities and to deepen their own practice. And the world needs more beautiful holistic healers that really see the human spirit and can offer a space of transformational healing, to really see a person and to also honor the human being and the lived experiences that they've been through.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
And that's even like I'm seeing you, it's like holding a torch and then passing it down, but it's like it's not even one, there's multiple.
Yeah, yeah. Like even when speaking about like gifts that have been held in the body, like I released an ebook last year in December, um, and these were rituals, these were daily rituals and practices, journal practices, activities, and mantras and writings that I've been doing, and I held them. They were being like, I just wrote them down and I just put them in my Google Drive, or they went, a writing went out on Instagram and whatnot, and I was just like, why are you holding on to these things?
Oh.
And so I released the ebook. Was it Mantras? Um, what's it called now? Oh my gosh, my brain. Um, it's musings, mantras, and rituals, devotional practices to shift your consciousness, rejuvenate your vitality, and align with your multidimensional divinity. Um, you know, I released that. I was like, here you go. I released that ebook, and you know, it's like I said, I'm still learning, I'm still growing,
Mm.
and but also putting doing being the example of doing of saying, okay, I'm doing it too.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I've
Mm.
been there. I know the experience, or I can resonate, or you know what? Maybe it's an experience I've never been through before, but you know what? I can still hold space for you, you know?
Mm.
And so know, so to your listeners, to people that are watching, you know, as a as a mentor, as a guide, you know, all of us are doing this work on for ourselves as well, and we do our best to embody that, you know.
Mm. And it's so important.
Hmm.
It's so important.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being our lovely guest for
Hmm.
Heart Path Podcast. And like I said, in the show notes, we're going to have all of the links, and we're even going to have that link for the ebook
Hmm.
so you can find it. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. And I'm just going to say until next time. I feel a next time coming.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Thank you to everyone. Lots of love.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Blessings. Hmm.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. And before you go, I wanted to offer you an opportunity for reflection and contemplation. Was there anything in this episode that inspired you or that you can use in your life moving forward? If so, what was it? Was there something that was brought up or discussed in this episode that made you feel uncomfortable, perhaps even triggered? Was there anything in this episode that left you feeling seen and understood? Now, taking a moment to bring these reflections into the sacred space of the heart or to journal, and I would love to hear your reflections. You can share them with me on social media. I'd love to hear how this episode impacted you. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. We appreciate you. Lots of love. Mwah.